Gina DeLuca here. All right, today I am doing a straight pour, but we are using rainbow colors. It is June, it is Pride Month, and for many people that I love, this is a month of celebration, and I just want to be celebrating with them. So we're making a rainbow today. And the way that we're doing that, the colors that I'm using, all of these colors, not this color, but all of these colors in the small cups, I have started with DecoArt Americana Decor Satin Enamel in pure white. The paint mixture I use is about 1/3 satin enamel and 2/3 of my color, basically. So that would equal 1. That's 1 part paint, right? So let's just say if you were doing teaspoons, it would be 1 teaspoon of the satin enamel and 2 teaspoons of your color. And then that mixture is then thinned with Floetrol. So it's 1 part paint to 2 parts Floetrol. So if you were starting with 3 teaspoons of paint, then it would be 6 teaspoons of Floetrol. Then that mixture is thinned with my concoction of 90% water, 10% Floetrol, until I get the consistency that I'm looking for. In this case, I am at a consistency of about a 2. It is making a mound, but it disappears quickly. It's making a nice even stream off of my spatula here. So the colors that we have for my background slash base coat, I have Phthalo Blue by Liquitex Basics. And then that is also what is mixed into this blue is the Phthalo Blue. The purple is Dioxazine Purple. I have Phthalo Green, Cadmium Yellow Medium Hue. I thought that I had grabbed the deep, but that's the medium. Loft Orange. And for the red, I had started with the Basics Cadmium Red Deep Hue, but it wasn't quite the shade that I was going for. It looked a little too pink, and so I kind of deepened that up a bit with the Arteza Bordeaux Red. This color is just amazing. This was my favorite red, the Cadmium Red, until I found this red. I still love the cadmium because it's a very vibrant red when it dries, but I love that you can mix this Bordeaux red and it's not like a, you know, cotton candy pink when it's light. It still has a nice rich tone to it. Before we get started, have you seen the Fluid Art inspiration cards? If you have, you can fast forward about a minute. But if you have not, what we have are 52 cards. There are 42 technique cards, and each technique card has an associated video here on YouTube. This is the picture from that particular video. This box here contains a tip for that particular technique. And here at the bottom, you have the colors that were used in that particular painting. And then these 2 boxes can be used as the basis of a 2-color palette, or you can build off of those 2. And there are also 8 bonus color palette cards. Each color palette card has 5 color palettes. You can use all of the colors or just some of the colors, and when you mix and match the bonus color palette cards with the technique cards, you have more combinations than you could ever paint in a lifetime. These are available at my website, ginadeluca.net, and also at Amazon.com. And if you get them from Amazon, please do leave feedback. It is very helpful to the sellers over there. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is put some of my background color into my cup because I want to make sure that I have enough. I have done my base coat and then realized that, oh no, I didn't leave enough for the cup. So the reason we lay down a base coat is so that our paints have something to slide around on. When you pour that puddle onto a naked canvas, something has to stick to the canvas first, and that's going to be the edge of your puddle as you're tilting. And if some of the coolest stuff is happening on the edges of your puddle, which happens quite often, you will lose that, and you will lose the option of leaving negative space and keeping that cool, whatever the cool stuff was that was happening on the edges of your canvas. If you are laying down a base coat and you find that you are still experiencing your paint puddle running over itself, where like the center is running over the edges, then you may just be tilting too quickly. So slow it down. And the reason that I cover my edges first is particularly in a straight pour with the way that I mix them, because I mix them pretty thin to get those boulder cell reactions. Especially when I'm using Floetrol, the edges can kind of get thin and you'll be able to see the canvas through the paint. We don't want that. So if you cover the edges of your canvas first, it will save you time later where you would have to touch up your sides and try to make it match and make it look cohesive. And ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. All right, so I have about 3 ounces of my background color / base coat. Always be sure to double check the consistencies of your paint before you put them in the cup. The sauce may thicken upon standing. All right, I'm going to start with the purple. This is going to be more paint than I need for this canvas. And then the blue. When I try to mix small batches, I cannot. It's like when I make soup, I start off with a small pot and I inevitably wind up transferring it to my restaurant-sized pot, which I call the orphanage pot, because you could feed an army with this thing. I do the same thing when it comes to paints. Can't seem to help myself. Told myself I was only going to make like enough for like half of these cups, or maybe 2/3. But we have plenty. As long as I wind up with all of the colors on the canvas, I don't mind if some has to get tilted off, because that just gives me more control of my composition. But I also don't like to be wasteful. So I try not to have there be too much runoff. The way that I get my measurements is the length times width in inches would give you your square inches. And then you take that number and divide that by 28. You can divide by 24 if you want some extra paint, if you want to make sure that you have more than enough. That's kind of recommended if you're doing big canvases because they are rather thirsty. Okay, and I'm going to just put a little bit of what I have left here of the blue on top, because these paints need something to react with. So what is happening, the reason that the Satin Enamels give you cells and the whole DecoArt Americana Decor line, it is a hydrophobic effect. This is not due to the Rayleigh-Taylor instability. This is not from the DecoArt paints. They dry matte and finish. And this blue dries glossier than the DecoArt paints. And so what happens is the DecoArt paints pop up and they push away. I gotta pour. I got cells popping up. I can't really talk and pour. As I get closer to the end of my cup, I will get closer to the canvas so that I have more control over the paint that's coming out of the cup. The center of your pour here is going to be the part that gets stretched the most, and so it's actually going to be a focal point. So you want to be careful you want to be as precise as possible. And if it's not precise, you will want to fix it with a skewer. 10 on that dismount. You'll want to fix it with a skewer before you tilt, and that will help. All right, so far, I'm happy with what's going on here. Got some really cool blending going on. Cells are probably gonna pop up in there and make it disappear, but you know, so far it's pretty nifty. I'm going to pop these bubbles. I forgot to pop the bubbles in my base coat. That's kind of not a good thing. You'll want to pop the bubbles in your base coat before you pour, because you don't want the bubbles that are in the base coat to pop up through your painting later on and give you little tiny pin cells. So you'll see as I pop these bubbles, it's bringing up some of the paints from the layers below. And when it does that, it's bringing some of that paint from the underlying layers up to the surface. And then you're getting these little cells. And because of that hydrophobic reaction, those cells will expand as they sit. And then you stretch that, and that's how you get the boulder cells. But it requires patience because you have to allow them to come up first so you can stretch them. Once you stretch it, more of those cells will come up, and I call those pop-up cells because they tend to pop up as it sits. And they're usually pretty uniform in size and shape, relatively. But if you let these cells come up first and develop, let your puddle percolate, you will be able to get those cool boulder cells and that awesome 3D effect that you can get from them. This is the hard part. This being patient. It's not easy, I know. If you need to set yourself a timer, do it. You could set yourself a timer, set it for 2 minutes, come back and torch it. And set it for 2 minutes again, and come back and torch it. And do 2 more minutes, and torch it, and then tilt. You will find that you're probably going to get more cells that way. I could tilt this right away as soon as it comes out of the cup and get cells. Like that's not the issue. You will still get cells. You'll get those pop-up cells, or some people call them pearl cells. I like the boulder cells. I like the 3D effect that they give. So that's what I strive for. And I don't fast forward through this part, even though it may be boring for some. I know that some people, you know, they just want to get to business. But I feel it's important for, you know, the people who are more into the details and are really trying to use these as a tutorial and not just as entertainment. Like, it's important to know how long it's sitting, because I could just fast forward through all this. I could fast forward through the tilting. I could get these videos down to 3 minutes, you know, with high speed, everything, but then you're not really going to learn anything. And I know I'm sometimes repetitive, but I have new people on the channel every day. And sometimes it's good to hear that same thing over and over again too, because it kind of just drills it into your head so you don't forget. You know, if when you're tilting your painting, you hear me say in your head, I know you feel like it's not going to get to that last corner, but it will get there. Be patient, don't rush it. If you can hear that in your head, then I'm doing my job. All right. What direction am I going to go? I don't want to ruin this center. So, let go. Let go of my painting. Okay. So it seems like there was just a little more on this side. Like the center was a little closer to the other side over there. And I want to maintain the integrity of that center. Because that's about as good of a Fibonacci as I've ever gotten. There is a lot of paint on here, so I'm definitely going to have to tilt some of this off. But I'm not worried. I know cool things will still happen. Oh, I have to get that corner or it'll make me crazy. All right. Now, and I know it seems like, you know, there was so much paint that you wouldn't think that you would need to tilt off that much paint where you would get that close to tilting off part of the center. But when you're trying to maintain the composition, sometimes you just have to do that. Like, I would love to keep all those asteroids that are on the edge. Remember I said some of the coolest stuff happens on the edges? But I really, really want that blended ring. I love that, and I would love for that to be more of a focal point, but I have a feeling that I'm just going to get a bunch of cells in there. So now, bringing the weight of the paint back to center. The weight of the paint, you can tell where that is by where it's moving the fastest. If you need to kind of wiggle it a bit to find it, that's fine. But you don't want to go like willy-nilly in directions. You want it to be very focused. If you just start tilting in whatever direction you feel like it, you're going to wind up with a bunch of zigzags. And you will lose your composition. Like, I want to keep these rings as much as possible. Okay, so again, bringing the weight of the paint back to center. Letting the weight of the paint push the rest of the paint around. And like I said, when you get to that last corner, you feel like it's not going to get there, just be patient, it will get there. Really, really want to keep that blended area. So I'm kind of tilting it a little differently than I may otherwise have. Normally I would be like trying to make a corner there, but I want to try to keep that little blended area. Okay, and again, bringing the weight of the paint back to center. My Fibonacci did get a little wobbly. It can happen. Probably because I didn't make that corner. If I'd gone for that corner, I would have kept the integrity of the center. I'm just gonna take a skewer and just slightly adjust how this is looking. I'm gonna make this blend right, that's better. It's looking a little less man partish. But, all right, I'm gonna let this sit and it's gonna do what it's gonna do. I may get more cells. I mean, I'm probably gonna get more cells. So we'll just let this happen, and I'll bring you back in a few with a close-up. Okay, here it is in all its rainbow glory. Really digging this piece. Like, certain parts of it look tie-dyed. I love that blend, little blending action there. Really cool multicolored cells going on. Very cool boulder cell action. Got like some northern lights looking blends going on in there. And that kind of looks like a fish. Those look like whales. A little close-up of the alteration I did there. But there it is. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed. Please do like, share, and subscribe and all that good stuff. Do check out the description box below for links to my PayPal tip jar if you feel so inclined. Always appreciate it, but certainly not expect it. Also, you will find the links to my affiliates. If you want to make something like this happen, head on over to DecoArt and grab some of those satin enamels. I always get mine from the website because I think their prices are better than some of the other places. And also, they always have more colors in stock. So I prefer to go to the website. And if you enter through that link provided, or for the other affiliates, Arteza, Amazon, Blick, I will receive a small commission at no additional cost to you. Also, in the description box, you will find the link to my website, GinaDeLuca.net, where you can find my art and music and the fluid art inspiration cards for sale. And of course, the cards are also available at Amazon. And of course, last but certainly not least, you will find the link to our Facebook group, Go Make Some Art. Join us there, post your masterpieces, ask your questions, get some inspiration. A good time is had by most. It is the internet after all. But there it is. That is it for me for today. I hope y'all have a beautiful day. Now go make some art.